The answer to these questions lies in a field of study known as logic, also called mantic. Logic is the science that studies the principles of correct reasoning. It provides the rules that guide the human mind to think clearly, systematically, and rationally. In everyday life, people constantly encounter ideas, opinions, and claims. Some of these claims may sound convincing at first, but when examined carefully, they may not actually be supported by strong reasoning. Logic helps individuals examine arguments carefully and determine whether they are valid or flawed. At its foundation, logic begins with understanding concepts clearly. A concept is simply an idea that the mind forms about something. For example, when we hear words such as human being, knowledge, or justice, the mind forms a mental understanding of what those words represent. Clear concepts are essential for clear thinking. When ideas are vague or poorly defined, reasoning often becomes confused. Logic, therefore, encourages careful definitions and precise understanding before forming conclusions. After understanding concepts, the next step in logical thinking is forming judgments. A judgment is a statement that connects two ideas together. For example, when we say human beings are rational creatures, we are connecting the concept of human beings with the quality of rational thinking. Judgments allow us to express knowledge and make meaningful statements about the world. However, logic does not stop at individual statements. It also examines how multiple statements can be combined to produce conclusions. One of the most important tools in logic is deductive reasoning. Deduction is the process of drawing a conclusion from previously established statements. When the reasoning is valid, the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises. Consider the following example. All human beings are mortal. Omar is a human being. Therefore, Omar is mortal. This conclusion is not based on guesswork or personal opinion. It follows a structured pattern of reasoning where the conclusion arises naturally from the earlier statements. This type of reasoning is often called a logical syllogism. Logical reasoning is not limited to academic discussions or philosophical debates. It also plays a significant role in daily life. Every day, people make decisions, evaluate information, and form opinions. Logic provides a framework that helps individuals approach these situations with careful thinking and rational judgment. For instance, when people encounter information online or hear persuasive arguments, logical thinking encourages them to pause and evaluate the reasoning behind the claim. Rather than accepting ideas immediately, they can ask important questions about evidence and consistency. By developing logical thinking, individuals become more capable of distinguishing strong arguments from weak ones. This ability strengthens intellectual independence and promotes thoughtful decision-making. Logical thinking is also closely connected to critical thinking. Critical thinking involves carefully examining ideas, identifying assumptions, and evaluating whether conclusions truly follow from evidence. When people practice logical thinking, they learn to analyze arguments more carefully. They become aware that not every persuasive statement is logically sound. Sometimes arguments rely on emotional appeal, incomplete information, or hidden assumptions. For example, a person might claim that a particular solution will solve a complex problem instantly. Without logical examination, such a claim may appear convincing. However, logical thinking encourages individuals to ask deeper questions. What evidence supports this claim? Are there alternative explanations? Does the conclusion follow logically from the information provided? By asking these questions, individuals develop stronger analytical skills and avoid being misled by weak reasoning. Logic also plays a central role in scientific thinking. Science depends on systematic reasoning and evidence-based conclusions. Scientists often begin with the hypothesis, which is a proposed explanation for a particular phenomenon. They then conduct experiments, collect data, and analyze results to determine whether the hypothesis is supported by evidence. This process reflects the principles of logical reasoning. Observations lead to hypotheses, experiments, test those hypotheses, and conclusions are drawn based on the results. Without logical reasoning, scientific progress would not be possible. Studying logic strengthens the human mind in several important ways. It improves the ability to analyze complex ideas, construct clear arguments, and evaluate the reasoning of others. Logical thinking also encourages intellectual discipline by teaching individuals to rely on evidence rather than assumptions. Furthermore, logic helps people communicate their ideas more effectively. When arguments are presented in a clear and structured way, they become easier for others to understand and evaluate. In conclusion, logic is the discipline that guides human reasoning and supports clear, rational thought. It provides the intellectual framework to which ideas can be examined, arguments can be evaluated, and conclusions can be reached with confidence. By studying logic, individuals develop the ability to think critically, analyze information responsibly, and approach complex issues with clarity and precision. For this reason, logic has long been regarded as one of the most valuable intellectual tools for understanding the world and making sound decisions.